Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Connor Newt is with us today. Hello, Connor.
Hello, Jared.
So, did you see the big rumor started by Greg McElroy yesterday, apparently, at SEC Media Days?
I did indeed.
So, I think everybody saw this. Again, Greg McElroy, the former Alabama national championship winning quarterback, said his sources, or a source close to Nick Saban, told Greg McElroy that Nick Saban was going to return to coaching. And then it took off like wildfire. Why did it take off like wildfire? Because Greg McElroy played quarterback for Nick Saban at Alabama. Apparently, throughout all of yesterday, that rumor ended up getting squashed. Paul Feinbaum was on the morning show today. He said, I knew as soon as he said it that it was going to catch fire, but there was nothing to it. I saw Chris Lowe, the guy who's obviously close enough with Saban to break the story himself, said, yeah, no, he's not coming back. So it was Greg McElroy. Again, I'm trying to figure out what sources Greg McElroy would have that aren't Nick Saban himself, considering he played quarterback and won a national championship for Nick Saban. But apparently in the span of a day, which is typical for SEC Media Days, where, again, guys go there and they try not to say anything. But in the span of a day, that was the hit discussion. Is Nick Saban coming back? Again, this is wild to me. Because once again, who can Greg McElroy's sources actually be? The guy played for Nick Saban. He won a national title for Nick Saban. He's currently a colleague of Nick Saban's at ESPN. The dude has a popular radio show in Nick Saban's hometown. Again, that would be like Floyd Reese saying something about, my source says Bill Belichick, XYZ. You think he's talking about some random jamoke as a source? But again, apparently, Greg McElroy completely walked it back and said he thinks Saban will stay retired. So the semantics of how we got here seem a little odd, but it's not as if there's any real news on the cusp. But I wanted to use this opportunity to lobby for something that I don't know why I think this has to happen. I don't know why I care so much that this absolutely, positively needs to happen. But there is something inside of me as a football fan who appreciates good football, good quarterback play, elite players, elite coaching, that is just begging for what I think is a slam dunk no-brainer. And you tell me who's going to say no to this. I believe Nick Saban needs to be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. I know Saban didn't work well in the NFL at Miami, even though he was coach of the year. But he also didn't have Joe Burrow when he was the head coach in Miami. And if you don't think that matters, Pete Carroll didn't work his first time in the NFL with the Patriots and the Jets. But when Pete got to Seattle, again, Pete showed he can coach. This new QB series is out on Netflix, and I have watched the first episode. It's actually, again, I think it's a very good show. I enjoyed it 2 years ago. Last year, I watched the wide receiver show. I wasn't as glued to it. It was interesting, but it wasn't interesting enough to keep me past, 3 or 4 episodes on a plane. But I watched the first quarterback episode today, and there was a clip that was making its way around Twitter. If you can, Connor Newt. This was from the Netflix docu-series Quarterback that, again, was making its way around the Twitterverse when the Titans played Cincinnati. If you remember, Joe Burrow had a terrible interception early in the game, and it was one of those ugly Titans never had a chance, but they only lost by 10 points kind of games. And that would have been a sign of progress for the Titans, but it was so comically bad because the Titans were so bad. But this cut from this docu-series, I think, proves one thing that I've believed all along, which is that Zach Taylor, the head coach in Cincinnati, total stooge, and that Joe Burrow is the coach of the Cincinnati Bengals right now, the same way Joe Burrow was the coach at LSU when they won a national title with Ed Orgeron. Here was the dialogue after the 10-point victory for the Bengals from the Netflix docuseries Quarterback.
The penalty train rolls on.
What the fuck are we doing, man? Wake the fuck up! Fucking mental mistakes all fucking day.
Way to finish the day. That's a great drive to finish it. I know it's a frustrating,
Embarrassing performance by us. Fucking embarrassing.
listen, we'll address it. But at the same time, let's enjoy some wins.
Nah. We sucked today. That was embarrassing. We jumped off sides fucking 8 times.
I know that. Sometimes I walk into an emotional moment that I know I'm walking into an emotional moment, and it becomes a really emotional moment, and it may be viewed as conflict. It's really just passion for the game.
You know, I understand that we won the game and we want to be happy that we win the game, but at the same time, when things aren't good enough, I'm not going to act like they were.
Joe Burrow's not listening to him. Joe Burrow is the coach of that team, and Joe Burrow does not need to be the coach of that team. Lamar Jackson doesn't coach his team. Patrick Mahomes doesn't coach his team. And I don't think Josh Allen coaches his team. Joe Burrow does not need to be coaching his NFL team. But again, here's Zach Taylor, Mr. Rah-Rah Positivity. Let's enjoy this 10-point win over the lowly Titans. And meanwhile, Joe Burrow's sitting there saying, F that. That team sucks. We sucked. If we want to make the playoffs, we can't play like this. Go get the lollipops and the orange slices, coach. Get back to being useful. Let's not kid ourselves. If Nick Saban were to take over the Bengals, do you think the problems about mental mistakes would be something that Joe Burrow would have to correct? It reminds me, if you've ever watched the Football Life documentary on Troy Aikman, and Troy Aikman detailed what it was like when the Dallas Cowboys moved on from Jimmy Johnson to Barry Switzer. And there's a similar sideline blow up in that Football Life documentary that showed Troy Aikman going nuts on the sidelines in 1997, saying, why do we even have a coach? Because when Troy Aikman was winning Super Bowls with Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy was the one who coached the team. When Barry Switzer took over, Troy felt like he had to coach the team. Let Joe Burrow play quarterback. Let Jamar Chase play wide receiver. And how do you do that? You bring in Nick Saban. Everybody in that building is going to listen to Nick Saban, and you know it, because it's Nick Saban. And let's not kid ourselves when it comes to Nick Saban. Would Saban ever return to football? Let me just say this. I have no idea one way or another if he would or if he wouldn't, but there is not a better job out there than to be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow at quarterback. This is not like Nick Saban would be coming out of retirement to take over a team with Derek Carr at quarterback. Everybody knows the Bengals don't have Derek Carr at quarterback. I argued that if I were the Bengals, I would have fired that numbnut Zach Taylor last year, and I'd have hired Mike Vrabel. Because once again, I don't need Vrabel to worry about the offense. I need Vrabel to get everybody on the same page. I need Vrabel to hold people accountable. Joe Burrow will take care of the offense. So here's the Cincinnati Bengals. And Joe Burrow is in his prime, and you're paying him $55 million a year. You're paying Jamar Chase, what, $40 million a year? You're paying T. Higgins probably close to $30 million a year. So what's an extra $10 million to bring in Nick Saban to really herd the cattle? Again, this is Nick Saban we're talking about here. And not only that, the Bengals are currently working to get a new stadium built. And you know the cheap Bengals are not going to try to pay for that. You know the Bengals are going to try to stick that to the taxpayers and the state of Ohio and the city of Cincinnati and maybe try to use the people of Kentucky to get involved or something. But what is a bigger sign to your constituents and fan base of saying, hey, we're in, trust us, I know we're the cheap Bengals, and for years we've been a team that nobody thinks pays anybody. Trust us, we're signing Nick Saban to be the head coach to try to take advantage of this window we have with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. And then we're going to sign Trey Hendrickson to a contract because that's what we need with Nick Saban as coach, is the NFL's leading sacker. So again, that whole Greg McElroy thing, because Greg McElroy played quarterback for Nick Saban, and Greg McElroy is a colleague of Nick Saban's, and Greg McElroy lives in the same town as Nick Saban. It was very odd, this idea that Greg McElroy was going to say, I hear Saban might be coming back, and then everybody immediately shoots it down as soon as it comes to pass. So I guess that's really a nothing burger. And I don't think the Bengals would ever fire Zach Taylor, because I think the Bengals are comfortable with Zach Taylor. And what I've learned about the Bengals is if they're comfortable with something, it's really, really, really hard to get them off that. And I don't think they'd be comfortable with what it would take to pay Nick Saban. But I just think it would be a perfect fit. Again, I don't guarantee Super Bowls because so many things have to go right in order to win a Super Bowl. But the Cincinnati Bengals are an offensive juggernaut with no real head coach, with Joe Burrow trying to be the head coach of that team. And you have the opportunity to get Nick Saban. Again, what do the Bengals need? They don't need an offensive schemer. They need somebody that can coach defense, that can really take over the organization and be the representative of the organization, which right now is Burrow. And I think they'd be better off with it being Saban. But they need a disciplinarian that can take care of the 52 guys on the team so Joe Burrow can worry about the one guy Joe Burrow needs to worry about, which is Joe Burrow. And for some reason, I am just obsessed with this, and I don't think anybody else, A, cares. I don't think B thinks it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. And C, I think there are so many of you out there that don't see the light like I do, that think that Joe Burrow plus Nick Saban equals championship, as close as you can to equaling championship. And for some reason, it depresses me. I'm not a Bengals fan. I am a Burrow fan. I am a Saban fan, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I just think everybody is so stupid if they do not think that Joe Burrow and the Bengals would be a match made in heaven for Nick Saban. Just so stupid. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. That's how we're starting today. And when it comes to Zach Taylor, who I am not a huge fan of, when it comes to Zach Taylor, there's kind of something else that I think I'm starting to realize, and we'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game. And let me tell all the fine folks out there that 1025 The Game's coverage of SEC Media Days is sponsored by Brewhouse South. Experience Nashville's ultimate sports and brew hangout at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. And apparently Chase and Big Joe may be catching up with Josh Heupel later today. So get excited for that. Stillman and Company, 1025 1063 The Game. Let's talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. And not only that, Hiller is a company that you can trust. Why? Because they're a company that I trust. Have you ever called a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC tech, and felt like they were trying to sell you something that you did not need? If a deal sounds too good to be true, like a $99 club membership or a $29 tune-up, that's because it is. The reality is they have to find something to fix so they can cover their costs for these discounted club memberships. Unlike the other guys, Hiller never offers deals designed to trick you or sell you something that you do not need, period. You all hear me talking about my friends at Hiller all the time. But this is why I trust Hiller in my own home. That's right. I was in Florida last week, and I called Hiller out to the home while I was gone. That's how much I trust them. So schedule online by visiting happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Hatfish truck today.
Well, speaking of the coach of Alabama football, Paul, what happened yesterday with Greg McElroy? I'm a little confused because when I first saw his report, I was like, well, if Greg McElroy is saying someone really knows that, then, boy, I'm taking this seriously. And then apparently it's not to be taken seriously. Is that right?
Well, I'll sound like somebody my age. I mean, this modern media is ridiculous. I mean, this is, what happened was, in a nutshell, I was on Greg's show. I'm on there every Monday. And he said to me, hey, I heard from somebody that really is notable that would know, and he believes Nick Saban is coming back into coaching. What do you think? I said, that's absurd. I said, there's no way, blah, blah, blah. McElroy then agreed with me. But he did ask the question, okay? And he was, and I finally asked him, I said, 30 years ago, my editor would have called me and said, who's your source? So I'm asking you, who's your source? He goes, well, somebody that knows Nick Saban. So it was call it whatever you want. I knew the second he said it, it was going to get traction. And it did. And do I think there's any truth to it? No, but that has nothing to do with the reality of the world we live in when it comes to aggregating stories.
Okay, that was Paul Feinbaum today on with Robbie and Joe. And so, again, the rumor is Feinbaum just laid it out for you. Apparently, on their daily station in Alabama, Greg McElroy said to Feinbaum, I talked to somebody, a high-level source, who said Saban's coming back. And Feinbaum, who is a veteran in the media, there's no doubt, Joe wrote a story about it, very well written by Joe Rex, wrote at The Athletic. Joe wrote a story about it. It's not bad. About how Feinbaum is a very sage media savant. And he's sitting here thinking, as McElroy is saying, I heard from somebody, a high-level source, that Nick Saban is returning to coach. And Feinbaum is sitting there thinking, oh, my God, you dope. The second you say that, this thing's going to blow up. Now, I don't like the fact that Feinbaum right there basically said, the American media and the way it works, he said that to me when I was on their show, and I just turned around and said no, and he said, yeah, I agree. But, of course, the thing that people ran with, the aggregators, was the high-level source that Greg McElroy said Nick Saban's coming back. Well, duh. Again, is that really a genius take? So here's what I'm having a hard time with. Can somebody explain to me, when it comes to Greg McElroy and Nick Saban, why Greg McElroy would need a high-level source to talk to him about Nick Saban? Am I the only one who's not wondering, can't Greg McElroy just text message Nick Saban? He played quarterback for him and won a national title. And I understand, again, I was in college 15 years ago. I'm not super, super close with every single person that I knew in college. I do have most people's phone numbers. I also have a very easy way to get in touch with anybody whose phone number I don't have that I want to get in touch with. But okay, fine. That was 15 years ago. You mean to tell me that over the years that Greg McElroy has called games for ESPN in which he called high-level games, that's really the second best ESPN game of the day. The best game for ESPN goes to Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. The second best game either goes to Bob Wischusen and Greg McElroy and that kind of noon kickoff team with Katie George, or it goes to the later ESPN game that they'll have. I think Sean McDonough maybe does that at this point. But, one of the top two games on ESPN or ABC throughout the course of the week has Greg McElroy call it. How many times has he called a Nick Saban Alabama game? And you mean to tell me he doesn't have Nick Saban's phone number? This is why this is such a big deal. And this is why I'm not just dismissing it. Again, Feinbaum is trying to make you think, he was just talking on the radio and he said that and that was dude, this guy won a national championship for Nick Saban. This guy has worked with Nick Saban at ESPN. This guy does a radio show in the morning in the hometown of Nick Saban. Nick Saban probably listens to that morning show. And you mean to tell me the guy can't just text him? That's where this doesn't make any sense. Again, it'd be one thing if I said it, because what is my connection to Nick Saban? I haven't talked to Nick Saban in 5 years. What is my connection that would be that? Whoa, Jared, he knows. This is Greg McElroy we're talking about. This reminds me of a story years ago when the Titans had fired Mike Mularkey and they were on the hunt for a new head coach and they were interviewing potential guys, and Josh McDaniels' name kept coming up. The Adam Schefters and the Ian Rappaports and everybody else, they kept talking about Josh McDaniels, unlock Mariota, Josh McDaniels. As stupid as all that sounds right now, that is what people were discussing at the time. And I was hosting the show, Jared and the GM with Floyd, and I said to Floyd, I go, well, what about Josh McDaniels? How would he be as a coach? Floyd goes, well, I don't know Josh as a head coach. I know Josh as a coordinator. He's a pretty good coordinator. And I said, well, but how would he be as a head coach? Should have probably picked up the hint right there that Floyd was saying, not very good. But I was too young. I was too stupid at the time. Might still be the same amount of stupid. Definitely not the same amount of young. And so finally, I just looked at him. I said, Floyd, you're the former general manager of the Titans. Like, you got to have an opinion on this stuff one way or another. And Floyd went off. And he said to me, he goes, You can say whatever you want to say, and it doesn't matter to anybody. If I say it, then it ends up on ESPN, and it's going to end up over there in that facility, and I don't think that they should be burdened with what I think about what they should do at coach. And I didn't react to that and think, oh, yeah, you get up in my face, old man. I reacted with that with, thank you. Thank you. Because now when you don't give an opinion like this, the audience understands. I'm sure there were people driving around in their cars in that moment that say, you know what, he's right. It's not fair for him to voice his opinion on who they should hire and then make the Titans feel like they have to hire who the old man says. I get it. That's how I felt in that moment. Well, when you're Greg McElroy and you won a national championship in Alabama and you live in Alabama, and you call the games on TV at times for the program at Alabama, it's hard not to think that you're not connected with Saban directly. Again, let me ask this question. Can't he just text Nick Saban? I talked to a very, very high-level source, and he said, if your high-level source isn't Nick Saban, then you need to pick up the phone and you need to call Nick Saban, because we all know you can call Nick Saban. And so because of that, even though the Army came out yesterday to squash this rumor that Nick Saban is considering getting back into football, I think I have to keep an open mind here and think that it's possible. And that McElroy said something he probably shouldn't have said, and that people close to Saban, including Saban, probably said to McElroy, what are you doing? What are you doing? But I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out Saban getting back into ball. And again, when it comes to Saban, the team I think he should go to, forget about college. Yes, I think it'll be easier to get a payday in college. I think a school like Texas A&M would pay Saban $10 zillion. But at the same time, where Saban needs to go to Cincinnati and go coach Joe Burrow. That's just me. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. We'll hit some of your phones. Plus, speaking of that Cincinnati situation with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, there is a theory that has been born of mine after the Netflix docuseries. We'll get to that next. And your phone, Stillman & Company, 1025-1063 The Game. And let's tell all the fine folks out there that this week's Nationals best deal is Chiba Hut Toasted Subs, with a menu featuring over 30 signature sub sandwiches, as well as a variety of Rice Krispie treats, salads, and munchies. They combine homegrown food with real people in a relaxed environment. Get half off a $40 gift card now at thegamenational.com/deals while supplies last.
penalty train rolls on.
What the fuck are we doing, man? Wake the up! Mental mistakes all day.
Way to finish the day. That's a great drive to finish it. I know it's frustrating.
Embarrassing performance by us. Fucking embarrassing.
And listen, we'll address it. But at the same time, let's enjoy some wins.
We sucked today. That was embarrassing. We jumped off sides fucking 8 times.
I know that. Sometimes I walk into an emotional moment that I know I'm walking into an emotional moment, and it becomes a really emotional moment, and it may be viewed as conflict. It's really just passion for the game.
You know, I understand that we won the game and we want to be happy that we win the game, but at the same time, when things aren't good enough, I'm not going to act like they were.
Okay. That was from the Netflix docuseries Quarterback. That was a 10-point victory for the Bengals over the Titans. Joe Burrow just losing his mind on the sideline, and the coach just coming over saying, "It's okay, Joe. We need to celebrate these moments. We beat the Titans." And Joe Burrow, who's a no-nonsense guy, is saying, "F that. That team sucks. We need to get our acts together." Which takes me back to my theory, which is that Joe Burrow coaches the Bengals. Zach Taylor is a bad coach. And that's where Brian Callahan has learned all the things that he preaches to the Titans that I don't like. All of the patting everybody on the ass all the time. L'Jarius Sneed's doing a great job when he's here. Guys have off-the-field issues, but he's doing great when he's here. Again, as I graphically said yesterday, I feel like Jeffrey Simmons could take a steaming dump on Brian Callahan's desk, and Callahan would say, "Good job, Jeff. Did you eat corn yesterday?" Like, that is exactly what would happen because Callahan has no backbone. That's what I believe. And I want to compare this again, that Burrow cut where Burrow's losing his mind on the sideline, and Zach Taylor. You know, sometimes I come into a confrontational moment, but really it's just a love of the game. And I want to compare this with the Football Life documentary on Troy Aikman when it came to Barry Switzer. So if we could, Newt, let's play that cut from the quarterback documentary just one more time, just so you can hear Burrow. Actually, screw it. We don't need it. You heard Burrow yelling and screaming. Now, this is the Troy Aikman documentary. And tell me if this is not the exact same thing.
As great as the first part of my career was, the back half of my career was every bit as frustrating. Once Jimmy left, I felt like we were kind of hanging on. We weren't as good in 94 as we had been in 93. 95, we won the Super Bowl, but we weren't as good of a football team in 95 as we had been in 94. And it continued.
In the 1996 playoffs, the mighty Cowboys were taken down by a second-year expansion team. In 97, they hit bottom. Aikman felt it coming. In preseason,
Hey guys, that's a embarrassment out there. That's a damn embarrassment. We can't block anybody up the now we're hugging the ball early. Junior League. Somebody's got to get their attention, and I'll tell you, Jack, I am tired of being a guy who's got to run down everybody's damn throat all the time. Why don't we have a coach who gets over there and does something about it? Instead, we want to go over and pat everybody on the ass, and they haven't done a job all night. Guys out there off, and nobody says anything about it. We got a head coach who won't say anything about it. We got coaches offensively who won't do anything about it. I mean, enough's enough. Babysitting's over.
I'm telling you, is that not the exact same thing? And so I'm convinced. Remember, we played the cut where when the Titans drafted Cam Ward, they asked Brian Callahan, how do you think you can develop Cam Ward? Well, I've done it before. And it's like, au contraire, mon frere. You were the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati when Joe freaking Burrow showed up at your door. You didn't grow Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow made you. And I've realized all that patting each other on the ass, the same thing that Aikman's all worked up about, where Aikman's sitting there saying, what do we even have a coach for? When Jeffrey Simmons is sitting there acting like a crazed lunatic at training camp, I certainly felt like, what do you even have a coach for? Simmons goes and does whatever he wants. When Jim Wyatt is having to write on Titan stationery in the mailbag that he didn't think Tavondre Sweat looked like he was in that great a shape, but he still got time to get in shape, isn't that what the coach's job is for? But again, with Callahan, he learned it all from Zach Taylor. And Zach Taylor doesn't actually do any coaching in Cincinnati because Joe Burrow is the coach. The way Aikman had to coach the Dallas Cowboys when Jimmy Johnson left. That's what I'm convinced of. And I have not seen anything in this offseason that has led me to believe that Brian Callahan is a good coach. I put out a poll on Twitter earlier today, and I said, do you think Brian Callahan is a good coach? And 43% of you think the answer is yes. And I'm sitting here thinking, based off of what? What is it that Callahan does that you're like, oh, yeah, no, he's a good coach? He's a good coach. Again, do I care that much about what happens to the Bengals? No, I don't. Because I don't care about the Bengals one way or another. I root for Burrow. I like him. I think he's got great swag. I think he's a great competitor. I think he's an awesome player. I wish he were my quarterback. But I don't shed any tears when the Bengals don't make the playoffs, even though Burrow throws for 5,000 yards and 87 touchdowns. But I do know bad coaching when I see it. And I do know that if you can win a national championship with Ed Orgeron as your head coach, you can do anything. That's Burrow. Brian Callahan didn't win that national title with Ed Orgeron as the coach. Zach Taylor didn't do any of that. Those guys have been holding Burrow back. Titans fans thought we're going to turn Will Levis into Joe Burrow because we hired the offensive coordinator that Joe Burrow had in Cincinnati. Again, I'm thinking those two stooges were holding Joe Burrow back. Brad is up next, 615-737-1025. Brad, thank you for calling and thank you for waiting. You go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I got two things, one on the Vols and one on the Titans. On the Vols front, I really think this is going to be an interesting year for Heupel. You know, he's had three quarterbacks. The first two are NFL employed, and the third, Nico, is definitely at least a mid-level prospect in the NFL. This year, he doesn't have that. So I'm thinking that carriage is going to turn back into a pumpkin a little bit, so it'll be interesting. And then on the Titans front, all I wanted to say is that I saw the Tennesseans coming out with the 25 greatest Titans moments of all time. When that's all done, I think a great segment for one of your shows is you should re-rank those 25 moments and talk about what might have been left off and how you would do it. So just thought that would be kind of fun. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Brad. I thought that was going to be a good call. I'm not really sure what to say with any of that. Re-rank the top 25 moments. I think I'm good. I think you can do that, Brad. I think you know enough about that. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. That's 615-737-1025. So I do want to get to some of your phones. There's another day, and ESPN has released another top 10 list at a position group in the NFL. Today it was off-ball linebacker. And there's one thing when it comes to the Titans that Titan fans, I think, got a little bit excited about. It is nothing to get excited about. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
Let's go for it. You got a young quarterback, so you want veteran receivers. I get it. I would do the same thing. But is this the best you could do? Calvin Ridley, 64-4. He was here before. 6 points. Why did I give him 6? Well, look at Pittman. Look at Pierce. Look at Pierce himself, what he got, and why I think a 6 is appropriate. You know, Pittman had 69 and 3 touchdowns. Your guy had 64 and 4. Same grade, 6. Now what do you want to do? You want to call Lockett number 2, or do you want to call Van Jefferson? I'll call Lockett number 2, since he almost had double. Actually, he did have double the receptions and the same touchdowns. So you slide Lockett into the 2 spot. He's an older guy. He'll be very good for the quarterback for a year or two, and that'll be the end of it. I thought Tyler Lockett personally could have gone to a couple other places, but he went here. I gave him a 4 out of 6. He used to be a 6 out of 6 when he was in his heyday, and sometimes he was the 1. Van Jefferson slides to the 3 spot where he belongs with 24 catches and 2 touchdowns. By the way, he played 63% of the plays. He should have been able to do better than 24 receptions, but he's who he is. He gets a 3, and I could have made it a 2. But I get why he's there, and the quarterback's going to need him. Ridley, Lockett, Jefferson. Now you go to the backups. 2 rookies, that's 0. Burks, a total disaster, 0. Add it all up is 12.
12 points. I believe that's our lowest score to date would be the Tennessee Titans. So
it's getting there.
There you go. That was Jim Miller, Pat Kerwin on SiriusXM NFL Radio. So that was them breaking down the Titans wide receiving group. We actually do not have the top 10 list on the wide receivers. That has not come out yet. But another day and another position group is dropped in which the Titans at ESPN do not have a player in the top 10, do not have a player with an honorable mention, do not have a player receiving a single vote. Today, it was off-ball linebackers. Now, look, Cody Barton's the only off-ball linebacker they have, and he's not any good anyway, so that shouldn't surprise people. But just think about this. This list is almost over. The only thing left are corners. I don't think the Titans will have one of those unless somebody votes for L'Jarius Sneed, which I could not imagine they would. And wide receiver, where I will be interested to see if Calvin Ridley gets a top 10 vote, though I don't assume that he will. As of right now, the Titans have Jeffrey Simmons as the 4th-ranked defensive tackle in the NFL and an honorable mention of Peter Skoronski as a top 10 guard. So Skoronski's not a top 10 guard, but he is an honorable mention. So in the polling, he's probably like 15th or 16th or something like that. No top 10 or honorable mentions at running back, quarterback, edge rusher, safety, tight end, tackle, and now off-ball linebacker. And there's 2 different thoughts I have with this. The first is, holy crap, this team's going to suck. Like, this team is going to be abysmal. And I think the higher-ups over there know it. I think they know they're on pace to win 3 or 4 games this year. I think the coaches are praying that's not what happens, but I think even they know their team's not very good. I think the owner is expecting them to be bad this year. And I even think the players know it a little bit. That's the first thing. This team is, as far as the talent on it, one of the lousiest teams I have ever covered on paper. And that's saying something, because this is not my first rodeo. The second thing was there were actually some Titan fans and some bloggers and some websites and some things that got excited about Peter Skoronski being an honorable mention at guard. I'm like, you do realize you took him with the 11th overall pick in the draft at guard, a non-premium position. And he's not even the 11th overall guard in the NFL. He's a bust. He's not even a top 10 guard entering year 3 in the NFL. Bust. I can go get the 15th best guard in the 4th round of the draft. That's when most teams get them. They don't use the 11th overall pick on a guy who the best thing you can say about him is he doesn't necessarily suck right now. Oh my God, this team is so bad. I mean, this team is so bad. They're going to be so bad this year. And again, I'm not saying that all the people in the league know better than everybody else or anything like that, or that this list determines who's good or who's. But when you don't have anybody scratching the surface of this list outside of Jeffrey Simmons, that is a reflection of just how awful you are. Running back, bad. Derrick Henry, number 2. Quarterback, bad. Edge rusher, bad. Safety, bad. Tight end, bad. Tackle, bad. Off-ball linebacker, bad. Tomorrow, receiver, it'll be bad. The next day, corner, bad. Jeffrey Simmons at number 4. And, hey, we got an honorable mention with Peter Skoronsky. Woo! Woo! Between that and the fact that the Titans took the number 1 tight end, Brock Bowers, went 13th. They took a left tackle at 7, who now they have to move over to right tackle. What a freaking... This team's going to be so bad. Like, I hope you people are ready for this. Just how bad this team's going to be. Unless Cam Ward is truly Superman. Speaking of Superman, his movie's out. Josh Heupel, I was going to try to make a witty transition, but I can't do that. And I can't say something like, Josh Heupel might have to be Superman given the fact that he doesn't have a quarterback. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Chase and Big Joe are live in Atlanta at Media Days. They Heupel next. Stillman and Company. We'll have that right here, 102.5.
live on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Good afternoon. I'm Connor Newt with your Game Center update, brought to you by Ponce Law. Injured in an accident? Call Ponce Law at 615-244-4321. Ponce Law, justice for all. As SEC Media Days in Atlanta, Georgia rolls on, yesterday, Vanderbilt addressed the media. Head coach Clark Lee was asked about the success last season, how they can sustain that success next season, and further on.
What is it going to take for us to win in November? Those are conversations that pretty much every time I'm in front of the team, some variation of that is being talked about, in addition to the things that are right in front of us. So it's shared learning, it's our experience, it's what we need to draw from to improve.
Just 24 hours after the New York Jets extended wide receiver Garrett Wilson, they are at it again, extending cornerback Sauce Gardner to a 4-year, $120.4 million extension. This makes Gardner the highest paid cornerback in the NFL and includes an $85 million guaranteed clause. And tune in tonight at 6 for SEC Media Day coverage with Chase and Big Joe, right here on 102.5 The Game. For the Game Nashville Sports Network, I'm Connor Newt.
For more, log on to thegamenashville.com. Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Chase and Big Joe are live at SEC Media Days, where they will be joined by Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel here momentarily. And I just have one quick thought with Tennessee at the podium today. And my one quick thought is this. When it comes to the Tennessee football season, doesn't Josh Heupel kind of get a pass this year? Don't the Vols as a program kind of get a pass this year? Like, I don't hear any Tennessee fan that's super excited for the season, other than the fact that Tennessee fans love football. So, hey, I'm excited about that. But as far as like, Jared, our football team this year is going to be so good. Jared, I'll tell you what, I just don't hear a lot of that. And I understand why. And so, I already know off the jump, Tennessee's going to lose at Alabama. They're going to lose to Georgia, and they're probably going to lose to Florida because Florida does have a superstar at quarterback, though Billy Napier is their coach, which makes me somewhat skeptical of them. So that's 3 losses right there. And the way college football has changed, it feels like over the last couple of years with a 12-team and what feels like it is inevitable that it will be a 16-team playoff. What's happened in college football is it now kind of feels like either you're a national title contender or you're not. You're a playoff contender or you're not. And then if you're not, you're just like everybody else. So if you don't really have a shot at the playoff, or if you think you should go to the playoff and you don't, you're kind of remembered the same. South Carolina, for instance, and Ole Miss were right there on the cut line. But there's really no difference between them and Miami and Vanderbilt and anybody else who ended up in some whatever bowl. And when it comes to Tennessee, because their schedule certainly isn't easy, I wouldn't say it's necessarily all that hard. Yes, there's Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot there. I could see Tennessee losing to Syracuse week 1. Fran Brown's got it rolling over at Syracuse. They're getting a bunch of recruits. How they're getting the recruits to come to Syracuse, I don't know. That's not my business. But Fran Brown's got a good team over there. I mean, hey, they took down the great Cam Ward last year and kept Miami out of the ACC title game, even though you guys tell me about how much of a winner Cam Ward is. So They play Syracuse. That's not going to be easy. They play Oklahoma. That's not going to be easy. They play a handful of these. They may lose 4 or 5 games. And if they lose 4 or 5 games, they're not going to make the playoff. They're going to be in the ReliaQuest Bowl, or they're going to be in whatever tie-in to the SEC, whatever bowl there is that wants it. They'll be in the Liberty Bowl. They'll be at the Music City Bowl. No disrespect to the Music City Bowl. And I don't even know what the ReliaQuest Bowl is anymore, but I think that's what Alabama went to last year. They'll be in one of those bowl games. And yet at the same time, if they had ended up in the ReliaQuest Bowl last year, I think Tennessee fans would have gone nuts. And I think Tennessee fans would have had every right to go nuts last year. This year, it kind of feels like, given how all the Nico stuff went down, Josh Heupel and Tennessee get a pass for ending up in the ReliaQuest Bowl. They get a pass for ending up in the Liberty Bowl, which I don't even know if it still has an SEC tie or not. I'm going to assume it does. Arkansas plays in it, I feel like, every year. Is that bad? Georgia has a quarterback. I don't know who's any good. I don't know if I don't know if Gunnar Stockton is any good or not. And if he's not good, then they could be in the ReliaQuest Bowl. And if Georgia is in the ReliaQuest Bowl next year, Georgia fans are going to go nuts. They're not going to demand that Kirby Smart be fired, but they're not going to be very happy about it. Again, when it comes to Tennessee, I kind of feel like this year is a total free pass. Josh Heupel has proven he can get you to the playoff because he got you to the playoff last year. Josh Heupel, I think, invested in the wrong kid in Nico. I don't think Nico was that good. And then Nico tried to basically extort the Tennessee football program into paying him more. And they didn't stand for that, which I salute, I applaud. But when I hear Robbie and Rexroad, and boy, they were doing this today. It's one of my favorite pastimes with Robbie and Joe during the summer, especially when we get into training camp. And I say this with all due respect. You guys know I love you, even Joe. They sometimes just kind of read the depth chart where they just start talking about, well, they got Johnny at linebacker and Joey at the other linebacker. And then if they get a good season from Scotty at safety and Stevie at safety and Joey at corner and Scooter at corner, then they've got to show. They just start reading the depth chart. And this morning, they were just reading the depth chart, talking about UT football. That's when Robbie and Joe get so into the weeds. But again, who's going to be the quarterback? Jake Merklinger. Who's that? Sam Aguiar, who was at UCLA. He wasn't any good. They don't have a quarterback. And if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win. So if they don't have a quarterback, I don't know why we should expect them to win this year. And so if they end up in the ReliaQuest Bowl, which is where I think they'll probably end up this year, I don't think they'll contend for the playoffs. Don't they get a free pass? Because Josh Heupel's done so much winning. I remember a couple of years ago when Jeremy Pruitt got a contract extension. And I, apparently the only person of sound mind and body at the time that that contract extension got signed, I was sitting there saying, why did they sign him to a contract extension? He's doing an okay job. And if you're doing an okay job, in my opinion, you get to keep your job. You don't get a contract extension, just like you don't get fired. And at the time, Tennessee fans, oh, Jared, you don't understand. Fulmer is showing that Pruitt is his guy and that we're sticking by him. So when Alabama calls, when Saban leaves, he won't want to go. Even though Kalen DeBoer left Washington where he got any contract, he could have named his price. They were in the national title game and he still left for Alabama. But again, I was the only one of sound mind and body at the time. And of course, it was a total disaster that following season with Pruitt, which led you to Heupel. Since Josh Heupel's been the coach at Tennessee, Josh Heupel has proven he's a good coach. He's proven it. I believe he's proven it. I believe that Josh Heupel has proved he can win at a high level. Can he win the national title? I don't know. But again, when the alternative is Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt, I think you'll take it. And that's why, once again, I think this is a house money season. This is a free pass season for Tennessee football. And anybody who tells me any differently, I'm just not going to believe. Is there any scenario this year where you could say that, oh, Josh Heupel, they lost and he should be fired? Of course not. So, again, my quick thought ahead of chasing Big Joe, sitting down with Josh Heupel, which is coming up momentarily. But kind of my takeaway on this is when it comes to UT this year, I think UT gets a free pass. And I'll be stunned if when push comes to shove, if they win one of those 3 games against Georgia, Florida, or Alabama, which they're not, I would not be surprised if they lost to Syracuse, Oklahoma, and let's not throw out a wild card like Arkansas, who they lost to last year, Vanderbilt, who returns a lot of their team from last year. Wouldn't rule that out either. They're probably going to win 8 games this year, maybe 7. Again, I think that's fine. And I think that's going to be okay. Brandon says, they're not going to get a pass from me. Heupel has some dead weight on his staff, and if he doesn't make changes this year, it'll be the beginning of the end. Yeah, okay. Whatever. So, again, that's kind of my quick take ahead of Chase and Joe talking to Josh Heupel is I just kind of feel like, you know what? At the end of the day this year with UT, and UT fans are not known for patience, and UT fans are not known for context, but at the end of the day, I kind of feel like this year's a free pass. For whatever that's worth. Josh Heupel to join Chase and Joe coming up next. 615-737-1025 live from SEC Media Days in Atlanta. And by the way, their coverage in Atlanta is brought to you by Brewhouse South. Experience Nashville's ultimate sports and brew hangout at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. Hey, the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix is coming to the National Super Speedway Labor Day weekend, and 1025 The Game has your chance to win VIP tickets to the Indy car race. Text in the keyword race right now to 615-737-1025 to be entered to win a pair of VIP tickets. For more information on the event, visit musiccitygp.com.
Tennessee and just my brand and the brand as a whole. It's a blessing just to be here.
You said that you were asked earlier about Joey Aguilar coming in, and there's going to be an open competition for the quarterback, but you pledged your support for him as a new guy coming in, transferring in. Why was it important for you to do that?
Yeah, I feel like it's important for any new guy coming into our system to get them acclimated and feel as comfortable as possible, just to be out here, just to have the chemistry, just to build that chemistry over the summer, in which we've done, and just be able to have guys corralling around just that quarterback group and just the offense and defense as a whole, to be able to make sure guys are prepared and ready for when the stage is set.
We're talking to Arian Carter, linebacker, University of Tennessee. Smyrna man, Smyrna built, Smyrna made. I love it, Arian.
Yes,
I told you earlier, we love watching you from a Friday night, what you do on a Saturday. All right, so we talked to people down here this week, like, well, that defense of Tennessee is going to have to carry them with this, new quarterback coming in and a lot of pressure on defense. Look, man, you like pressure, don't you? I mean, let the game come to you, right?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I put the pressure on myself. Pressure is a privilege at the end of the day, and I feel like we don't shy away from it. We stare at it head on and meet it head on. I feel like a lot of expectations, a lot of she say, he say,
Yeah.
but I feel like I believe in the group that we have in that building, and I feel like I believe in the coaches that we got to put us in the best position to go win. And I feel like we're going to be prepared for when the time is right to go out there and achieve it.
Some friends of mine said, when Tennessee players come through, ask them about the offseason and Nico. And I said, I'm not going to. That's in the past, man. These guys aren't focused on the past. You guys are focused on one thing, and that's Syracuse here in Atlanta in about 6 weeks.
Yep, exactly. Right. Yes, sir. We're just taking it day by day. We always talk about, we want to be prepared. We want to make sure everybody is mentally and physically ready for the season to be able to go into fall camp and have a great camp to kick off this 2026 season.
I know Chase asked you about being here and doing everything. Coach Heupel could have brought a lot of guys down here. He brought 3, and one of them is you. What does that mean?
It means everything. It just shows the trust that he has in me, just the standard that's been set, and the standard that I plan to uphold while I'm here, just representing, my school, my university, and my program. Is just a blessing, just to be here, and it just speaks volumes of the respect that he has for me and the respect I have for him as a coach and a man.
Vols linebacker Arian Carter with us here on Radio Row at SEC Media Days. He mentioned 6 weeks back here in Atlanta for the kickoff game. How special is that to play a team like Syracuse, but also to kind of have that national stage on you with the big kickoff game?
Yeah, we always talk about games like this with the big stage is set, and just being prepared and just being ready for when your moment comes. You don't get chances and opportunities like this only come in a lifetime, and you got to make sure that when your numbers call, you're ready. And I feel like us as a team and us as a whole, playing all 3 phases of complementary football, we're going to be prepared when that time has come.
You were prepared leaving Smyrna High School. You played for one of my favorite coaches, my favorite people, Coach Matt Williams down at Smyrna. How important is he to you?
Man, he's such a great coach and such a great man. Another man who has great morals, a man that's selfless, a man of family, who loves his family, who loves his coaches, who loves his players. He's just an overall player type of coach. And, having a man like that in your corner I was blessed to have him for my 4 years of high school, and just being able to be developed under him and learn so many gems and takes away from him, it's something I'll carry forever. I appreciate him.
We talked to Miles Kittlesman a little earlier about what's it like running out of the tee. He says he likes to run last because he don't want to go because you got to sprint when you go first, right?
Oh, yeah, you first. You better get up out of there. Everybody else, it's like a stampede.
Where do you like to be in that situation running out of the tunnel?
I like to come out in the front. Obviously, I'm hype. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm antsy. I'm ready to go hit somebody with a different color jersey on. So I'm full sprint, full tilt out that tunnel, ready to go. Go do my Lord's Prayer, and then go out there and put that helmet on and go play football.
Oh, I love it.
Arian Carter with us. Hey, thanks so much for doing this. I know you're excited. We're excited about the upcoming season.
I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy the rest of this.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a blessed day.
Yeah, you too. Sir. Appreciate it. Arian Carter joining us here on the program. Chasing Big Joe hanging out, Stillman and company. We are waiting on Coach Josh Heupel. He's going to join us here momentarily. I think I see him over there.
He's peeking.
I saw.
He's nervous.
No, I know. He sees us, And
it's a big deal to come on the Jared Stillman show and then have us kind of here as well right now to do that. But look. Obviously, we're here with Tennessee Vanderbilt, and to talk to these guys, and they're excited. These Tennessee balls we're talking to. We talked to the Vandy guys; they're excited too as well. But it's Tennessee's got that big game against Syracuse, and of course, 2 weeks later in the season, Georgia in Knoxville, a game that we've talked about could determine the season for either Tennessee or Georgia. But again, the most important game we've talked about all the time is the next one, and that's the Syracuse game.
It's funny too, and obviously we'll get coaches' thoughts on it, but the players that we've talked to, we've not talked to all three. You'll hear a couple of those later on, but you don't feel the pressure. And I mean, we talk about pressure that they got pressure, and I heard Jared, just now talking about, is it kind of a pass year, for Coach Heupel because of the Nico situation, and I don't think any of them are viewing it that way. They're like, no, okay, it's just another obstacle that you got to jump through in playing college football.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People are like, well, good for Heupel for sticking up against Nico, but what happens if they go 8-4? Nobody's thinking that.
No.
This defense in Knoxville is very, very good. That's a good defense. And yeah, it might have to carry them in a few games where the offense that's fine. That's what these defensive guys like that. They love the pressure of having that. But you know what? You go ahead and take care of Syracuse, then you beat East Tennessee State, then Georgia comes to you. It's checkered kneeling that day. It's going to be loud and everything that's going on. I mean, it fits right into what you want for the 2025 season. Yeah, you got to get your quarterback going. We understand all that. But it's not like the quarterback just showed up August 15th.
Right.
He's been there a while.
Right.
They've been there a while. They've been practicing, not officially, but they've been practicing with the receivers and everything. I think they'll be okay, man.
You got Merklinger, who's been there as well as a redshirt freshman. George McIntyre comes in. I mean, I think we all he's going to tell us, he said it today, that it's an open competition and not naming a starter. I think we know it's going to be Joey Aguilar that's going to be the starter.
Sure.
I get kind of playing it close to the vest, but at the same time, I also think there is going to be competition in training camp, and I guess he's leaving the door open. If somebody absolutely blows him away, then it's going to be that it could actually happen.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. Look, this is Heupel's first rodeo. I mean, he's going in 21 to 2 to 3 to 4, his fifth year in Knoxville. And look what this program was in 19 and 20 under the awful Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah.
When Heupel came in January of 21, hell, half of Knox County transferred. I mean, everybody left. And the fact that what he built them into and what they're doing, I mean, that's testament to him and the progress his team had. And so I think it's an exciting, if you're a Tennessee fan, I think you need to be excited. I know Nico's going, I get all that, but that's in the past now. You go forward to what you can do and roll with it.
Chasing Big Joe, we're hanging out on Stillman and Company, waiting Coach Josh Heupel to join us live on Radio Row, or Digital Drive as they call it. I mean, he's literally right around the corner, and their PR guy just came by and said he's about to head this way. So as George Plaster always says, we're in a bit of a four-corner stall.
We're like expecting parents because we're like looking around, waiting for the doctor to come out. That's a boy, and I'm all excited with it to see all things that go on. But this is a controlled chaos here on Radio Row. It's a lot of fun and see what's happening and everything like that. And so, look, you come down here. We want to talk. There's 16 coaches coming here. There's 2 we want to talk to.
Yeah.
Clark Lee, Josh Heupel.
Yeah, absolutely. Look who just called.
What is it, Clay?
No.
I can't see.
Well, I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
But
Clay.
Looking at their defense, we've talked to a couple of defensive guys now. I mean, I do think they're going to have to carry the water for a little bit while the offense kind of gets their stuff figured out. But I think, do they have a good enough defense that I think they could do that?
Yeah.
Do you think they could do that?
Look, what's the name? The defense,
Yeah.
right? So you go out and you stop people. And Josh Heupel's going to go out and say, look, we need you. We got a really good defense. I know we lost a few guys to the NFL. Every team does. The guys come and go. You lose some, you gain some. But this is a good defense that you got going on with you right now with Bryson Easton and Arian Carter. I mean, there's 2 good guys who have been through the fire for Tennessee. And that's what you have here. Look, we could talk quarterback all day long and who's going to replace Dylan Sampson. I get all that. But, it was the same question you had, like, who's going to replace Reggie Cobb? Well, look who comes in, Chuck Webb. Who's going to replace Chuck Webb? But Charlie Garner. I mean, there are guys that come in all the time that replace guys and take it to another level. You got to give them the opportunity to have that and then let it go with that. And so it's exciting to see what they can do for this Tennessee football team in 2025. We don't know. We truly don't know. But I'll tell you, some things fall their way. This team's back in the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, look, of course they are. I mean, but there are a bunch of teams, not only in the SEC, but in college football that I think can say that right now. Back to the past thing. When I talk to fans, and I know you've talked to a lot of Tennessee fans, I feel like they're kind of keeping that in their back pocket. It's one of those that if things don't go well, then it's like, yeah, no, he gets a pass this year.
I think so, a little bit, yeah. But at the same time, I don't think you'd be happy going 7-5 if you're in Knoxville. Happy if you're going 8-4. I think, yeah. But I'm such a I don't like going down the avenue of like, let's give a guy a pass this year. Yeah, I'm not a fan of all that. I love talking about it when it's what if something's already happened, but we don't know yet. We don't know how good Joey Aguilar is going to be. We have no idea yet. So the fact he gets in there and gets to prove himself during camp, and he's the guy that runs this offense when they come to Atlanta in 6 weeks to take on Syracuse, we'll know. We'll know something then. Is he playing peekaboo with us?
I don't know. Again, Chasing Big Joe here. We are on Radio Row at SEC Media Days presented by Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. Coach Josh Heupel is scheduled to join us in just a second. I think he's on with Jocks in Birmingham, which I'll say this. Credit to Clark Lee, credit to Josh Heupel that they're coming up. Kirby Smart did it, came up here and hit a bunch of different radio stations. There's some coaches, Lane Kiffin, that just stayed away. Didn't want to do it at all. And I'm like, what's the whole point of media days is coming up here and talking to the media.
Just come and have fun.
You're going to get asked a lot of the same questions.
How much fun would we have with Lane Kiffin? It'd been great to talk to him.
It'd have been awesome. And you know what is sad? I feel like 2 or 3 years ago he would have done it. But now he's just, he'd rather have his playing field that he can control a little bit more. So it looks like it is happening. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
So we will
All right.
We will get ready to go. Coach, how you doing?
Good. This is great. There you go, Coach, right there. Thank you.
Yeah, we're good.
Hey, good to
Chase,
see you, Coach.
Joe, thanks so much for doing this. And we'll get the headset on him and get him all situated here.
There you go. There you go, Coach.
Yep.
Like being on the sidelines.
We welcome in the head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers, Josh Heupel, is here with us as I think he's wrapping up his day here on at SEC Media Days, which may be a good thing.
We're getting close. We're in the fourth quarter. I hope it doesn't go to overtime.
Yeah, we're getting close. You said earlier today, open competition for quarterback after Nico's departure. That's all documented. We know about that. But how excited are you to work with all of these guys? You got a couple of freshmen and then obviously an established guy in Joey who's transferred in. Yep. That's got to be exciting to you as a coach to let them go out there and fight.
This is the fun part of it. It's challenging too, but those guys have handled themselves in a great way, competing fiercely to gain understanding, challenging each other, doing it in a positive way, gaining a voice with your teammates and, how you have to impact them at that position. And at the end of the day, we're really transparent with those guys in the process. Everything goes into the evaluation, but ultimately you're going to compete when you get to training camp, and somebody's got to learn it, earn it, and go take a job. And I think that's important for that position to gain the trust and respect that you need to from the guys around you. And that's in all three phases. I think it is important that your players see that process as well, because competition and who you are every day, taking a job and those things we talk about at every position. So it better be true at quarterback too.
And I don't know if you view it this way or not, but does Joey have a leg up simply because he has experience, even though it's not with your program, not in your offense?
No, we're going to find out who's mastered what we're doing, can operate and function at an elite level, put our offense in the best position, with everything the quarterback controls and what we're doing, can take care of the football and then go distribute it and let playmakers go make plays. And we're going to find that out as we go through training camp.
Tennessee head football coach Josh Heupel's with us. I know new quarterback situations coming in, but at the end of the day, You're a football coach. You like to coach. I mean,
Man,
I
no
gotta
doubt.
think this is exciting for you.
Absolutely. Today is the fourth quarter of the talking season, and
Right.
we're getting ready to go play some ball. And for us, like coaches want to coach, and a part of that is coaching young guys to get a chance to grow. And there's nothing better than seeing them figure things out and continue to become a better football player. And during the course of that journey together, and as we get ready to get into training camp, I'm excited about the growth that we've seen from all of the guys, but I'm ready to get to the field and put helmet and shoulder pads on and go play real football too.
A lot of consternation with Tennessee fans about what the court. Of course, that's what we always do. We always
That's what's awesome about Tennessee fans,
Right.
man. Like they care, man, and they're into it. I love that part.
Yeah, it's not like Joey and George, everybody's showing up August 15th. They've been there for a little bit, so they're acclimated to the city, the community, to the teammates, everything. That's all. Back in the day, when we showed up at camp, it was August the 5th. We had 3 weeks before our first game. Like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, it's different in that respect. George has been there since December, right? And Merck's been there for 18 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. And Joey's been there since early May, and he got a chance to go through the installs, and he kind of rinse and repeat and go back through those things in the summer months. But all of those guys, first of all, they're doing it the right way, and I think that's important. You look at Hendon and Joe, who competed for a starting job,
right,
and then it changes, right? Who is the starter? But how they handled that situation, two guys that became great friends, still great friends. They're in the NFL. Like that allows our team to be its best. And we were really clear on how guys are going to have to handle this, who they are in the building, but the interactions, and then ultimately how they compete together too.
We love guys from the Middle Tennessee area, and
I love them too, man. I do.
And you brought Arian Carter here, the guy we knew at
Man.
Smyrna High School.
Yeah.
We love that young man. What makes him special to you?
I love that guy too. You think about his journey, high school running back, switching to linebacker, smart, tough, relentless competitor that loves football, not what football brings him, but loves football, and a dynamic leader. And that guy is super consistent and mission focused on what he wants to accomplish individually and the plan that he has to get there and how he attacks it every day, but what he wants to accomplish as a football team.
Right.
And just grown into a dynamic, infectious leader. And, that's why he's here today with us.
Josh Heupel is with us, Vols head coach. You played this game at a high level. You've coached this game at a high level, and you know that there are no such thing.
Nobody cares.
At excuses.
That's what I love about this game. The only thing that matters is when the clock ticks 0.
So you probably know where I'm about to go.
You're either +1 or you're not. That's all that matters.
There's this narrative that with the quarterback situation and what happened with Nico, that you might get a pass this year. That if things don't go well, the Vols get a pass. Coach Heupel gets a pass. Does that piss you off when you hear that?
Man, it's been a long time since I walked into a ball game not thinking that we were going to win that ball game. It's been a long time, long before I got to Tennessee. Nobody in our program has ever used anything as an excuse from day one when we got there. When I got there, said we're good enough to win right now. Now your margins might be different.
Sure.
Year to year, team to team, your margins can be different, but this football team is good enough to go win. And, that's the athletic traits that we have, both sides of the football. It's what we have in our staff room. We got to go compete and go take it every play, every practice, every day. And ultimately you get to kick off, and, coaches and players together got to find a way to go win the game.
With what you just said, that you believe in this football team, is that why it was important for you to make a quick decision when everything went down of, hey, I believe in the guys that are here, that want to be here, that are bought in?
At the end of the day, you got to protect who and what you are or want to be inside your program. I think in any adverse situation, being able to communicate clearly, authentically, and timely matters to your program.
Sure.
And that's your staff, it's your players, it's staff family, players' families, whatever it might be. And, you know, we've developed a culture. We've developed a connection, accountability to each other. Not saying we're perfect in it every single day, but we've developed that, and we're going to stay true to that. What's outside the game has changed.
Sure.
What it takes to go win on Saturday, 12 of them during the course of the season, that ain't changed.
Yep.
Right.
You got to be tough. You got to be smart. You got to be relentless competitors. Everybody's got to do their job. And we're not going to give up on those things that we need to go win. Standard at Tennessee is to go win championships. We got to go accomplish that mission as fast as we can.
One more before I let you go. August 30th, you come back here to Atlanta. You take Syracuse to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. How much would you love to run out that day and see that stadium?
Man,
Tennessee orange, not Syracuse orange.
It's going to be filled with orange. I would be shocked, disappointed. I don't know what other word I can use to describe it if that baby is not packed with the right shade of orange, with a lot of people screaming Rocky Top at the top of their lungs.
Love it.
Coach, thanks so much for doing this. I know you're very busy. We're looking forward to it. It's 6 weeks away. Hard to believe.
I appreciate it. Looking forward to this journey with this football team, our fan base too. Our fans there's not a better fan base in college sports, college football. They've been a huge part of the growth of our program. They're a huge part of our success recruiting. We're going to need them as we go through this 25 journey to be the best versions of themselves and ready to attack every Saturday with us too.
Absolutely. He's Coach Josh Heupel of the Vols. Trevor Maddich up next here on 102.5 The Game.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks to Chase and Big Joe for being down at SEC Media Days and having Josh Heupel on the program. And as I said at the top of the hour, I said, I think Josh Heupel gets a free pass this year. And there he was at the end of the segment talking about, we just got great fans. Our fans, I'll tell you, they support us so much, blah, 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 blah. I think he knows quarterback's not very good. Tough schedule in the SEC. And I think he thinks, hey, I need the fans to be patient this year. Trevor Maddich joins us on the program presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, where experience matters. So, Trev, let's start there. I believe Josh Heupel gets a free pass, that no matter what happens this year at Tennessee, he's going to be the coach this time next year at SEC Media Days, and it should be that way. He just talked to Chase and Big Joe when it came to the Nico situation about protecting the program, which I think is in reference to not giving in to Nico's demands. So let's start there, Trev. Do you think when it comes to Tennessee that Josh Heupel should have a free pass this year, should be playing this season, given the quarterback situation with house money?
I absolutely do, Jared. And he will never say that. He will never believe that. He doesn't want that to leak into his team's mindset that, okay, well, we don't really have much of a chance this year, so we'll just get ready for next year. But from a standpoint of Tennessee fans looking at it, you've got Nico, who's the quarterback that they invested in, that had the first team reps, that they were ready to go with all off season. After spring ball, he was the guy, and then he leaves. And so now all of a sudden, you've got three guys competing at quarterback. One of them is Joey Aguilar, who's the transfer from UCLA, who played a lot of his career at Appalachian State. He's got a lot of experience. The two guys behind him are very talented, but they're very young. You got a redshirt freshman, and the true freshman is the guy that probably has the most talent of all of them. And I think that the fan base is sophisticated enough at Tennessee to not necessarily say that we don't care if Tennessee doesn't perform to the best of their capability, but I think this fan base understands what they face. The thing is, though, the schedule, if they get past Syracuse in the opener, and I think they will, Syracuse lost almost all of its production. I mean, Syracuse right now is, they've got to replace a whole lot more than Tennessee does. And they've got the same kind of problems at quarterback that Tennessee does in a way. I mean, they sent Kyle McCord, their quarterback last year, off to the NFL. And you've got backups from Notre Dame and LSU that are now competing to be the starting quarterback at Syracuse. And much like Tennessee, there's big question marks in the receiving core. And I think Tennessee is going to win that game. But the thing is, if they get past Tennessee, I can see them being 5-1 by the time they go play Alabama in Tuscaloosa in November. And that one loss will be at home against Georgia. And then after that, if they can, if you expect them to lose to Alabama and to Georgia, then for the rest of the season, they've got to win two tough games to make the playoff. If they can beat Oklahoma at home, which will be really tricky, and if they can win at Florida the week before they play Vanderbilt, then this can very well be a 10-2 team, even with the quarterback problems, even with having to replace 4 starting offensive linemen, even with sending their best edge rusher, James Pierce, to the NFL in this last draft. This Tennessee team that everybody is thinking deserves a pass this year, and they kind of would, except the schedule lines up that if they can steal a couple of games, they could still make the 12-team playoff again. And that would be magnificent.
Trevor, what did you make yesterday of Clark Lee going to SEC Media Days and talking about their goal is to be playing in January? Diego Pavia saying, I came back to win a national title. That's big talk at Vandy. I'll give Vandy credit because they're not a joke anymore, but that's big talk. What do you make of it?
I love it. I love it. Everybody who's ever been an entrepreneur knows that if you have a small business and you want it to become big, you need to treat it like a big business when it's small, and then grow it into that big business that you're already treating it like. And that's what Vanderbilt's doing. I mean, Vanderbilt is an afterthought in the local and national media when it comes to competing for SEC championships and, of course, national championships in the playoff and all the rest. But how are they going to get from where they are to where they want to go? That is to create that mindset. Now, they've also got to create the talent, and they can do that with NIL, basically. And NIL is going to be a massive part of Vanderbilt's ability to kind of build up to where they can compete in the top tier of the SEC. And the thing is, they can, but it'll cost a lot of money. And I think that's one of the things that Clark Lee and Diego Pavia are doing. I think they're really talking to the money people in the entertainment industry, the healthcare industry, the automotive industry, the tech industry. I mean, Nashville is an amazingly diverse and incredibly wealthy business environment. And
well, that's because you
business
live
people, well, of course, yeah, that's except for the wealthy part. Yeah. But as far as what they're trying to do by talking that way, what they're trying to say is, hey, folks with the money, look at us. Be with us, because we're on the rise, and you can go somewhere else and you can give your money to a program that's already winning, and you can just be another donor. Or you can come here and you can see that we're already on our way to building this program, and you can be an absolute legend in Vanderbilt football because you were one of the key funders of NIL to take this program from where it is now, which is a tough out, a pretty good program with Diego Pavia, to a program that could compete at a higher level in the SEC. And so if you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. If you don't say it, they're not going to believe it. But if you get your name out in the media and then you back it up by winning games, which they did last year, some big games. As a matter of fact, Texas and LSU, they lost those games by one score. I mean, they could have beaten both Texas and LSU with a couple bounces of the ball last year, in addition to beating Alabama. And so I think what they're trying to do is treat Vanderbilt football like it's already competitive at a high level to attract the money, because those folks want to rub elbows with stars. And Diego Pavia is a star. And boy, they need to do it right now because this is his last year there.
Trevor, there seems to be a lot of talk around Brian Kelly at LSU and the fact that they seem to always lose that first game every year out of conference, and that they always seem to be good, but not good enough at LSU since he's been there. Do you think Brian Kelly could be in some trouble this year? I know they open up with Clemson, but I have a hard time. It's not like he's done a bad job at LSU, but he hasn't done a great job at LSU. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think he's on a hot seat right now. I think he is not one of them. One of them meaning the Cajuns, the native sons and daughters of Louisiana. Ed Orgeron grew up in a small town, or was born in a small town south of New Orleans. Now, I didn't think there was anything south of New Orleans except the Gulf, right? But apparently there's people down there, and that's where Orgeron comes from. And that's one of the reasons that they loved him there until they finally had to make a change at head coach, because he's one of them. Well, Brian Kelly is a Yankee through and through in his coaching career, especially in terms of where he coached before he went to LSU. You know, Notre Dame was the most recent school he coached at, which is not necessarily known for its Southern flavor, South Bend, Indiana. So he doesn't have that benefit of the doubt that Orgeron had. This year, LSU is doing what Ohio State did last year. Last year, Ohio State famously spent over $20 million in NIL to bring in a roster that could win the national championship. And when they lost to Michigan in the last game of the regular season, it looked like Ryan Day, their head coach, that was a 4th straight loss to Michigan, he was on the hot seat and he might have been fired, except then they went on a tear and won the national championship in the college football playoff. And so all is right with the world, almost. They still have to beat Michigan. But that's what Ohio State did. They broke the bank with NIL to buy a roster, and it paid off with a national championship. That's what LSU did. LSU broke the bank to buy a roster to win the national championship. And I will tell you this, in my travels around the country, I see people, college football fans are always wearing a hat or a T-shirt or something. And I was in an RV campground, and next to me, a couple pulled up, and as they were setting up their camper, I asked them where they were from. They said Louisiana. I said, "Go Tigers. What do you think of the coach?" And he said, "He'd better win this year or he's gone." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. He's been pretty good." No. He better win this year or we, the fans, are going to drop him. And that wasn't the only LSU fan that spoke that way of this upcoming season. In my travels around, I didn't find a single LSU fan that said, Brian Kelly is great, and if he wins the SEC this year and goes deep into the playoffs, that's great. But if he doesn't and he's competitive, that's okay too, because we know he's going to get there at some point. Not a single LSU fan said that to me. Every one of them said he better feel the heat of his seat because from our perspective, fans, it is hot.
Trevor Maddich with us. What do you make of all the Arch Manning hype? I saw Jordan Rogers said it's too out of control. I heard Feinbaum say, hey, he thinks he's going to be the best player in college football. Where are you on the Arch Manning front?
Well, I think Arch Manning may well be everything that Paul Feinbaum said. Paul Feinbaum said he could be the greatest quarterback in college football since Tim Tebow. And forget about the NFL. Tim Tebow was one of the greatest college quarterbacks in history. And to put Arch Manning there when he has never been the actual starter outside of a couple games because of injury last year, that's a lot of faith in the kid. Now, I think that he's got the talent to be in that conversation, but this year in the SEC, he's got a lot of competition for who will be the best quarterback just in the SEC, much less the greatest since Tim Tebow. I mean, you've got quarterbacks at places. We talked about LSU. Garrett Nussmeier doesn't have the arm talent of Arch Manning, but he's got an NFL arm. He'll be in the NFL after this season, and he's got a lot more experience than Arch does. And South Carolina, Lenora Sellers has a massive arm, although he doesn't have the subtlety and arm talent of Arch, not yet. But Lenora Sellers is a massive athlete who's fast, and you got to stop him as a runner before you could ever think about stopping it as a passer, and he only will be getting better as a passer. DJ Lagway of Florida is another one that had a terrific back half of last season, and he's only going to get better, and he's going to have a better offensive line and probably a better overall receiving group than he did last year as well at the end of the season when they were supposed to lose their last 7 games at Florida, and they ended up winning 4 of those 7 games. And that was in large part because of Lagway. So then you've got Arch Manning. Arch Manning has the talent to be the first pick in the draft. He's got the talent to be the best quarterback in the nation. But where it stands right now in college football, in terms of the guys just in the conference that he's competing with to be first team all SEC, I would say, yeah, he can, maybe he will, but I need to see him as the man before I take away that same consideration from some of those other SEC quarterbacks that we just talked about.
Trevor Maddich is with us, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Last one for you, Trevor, which is when it comes to the SEC, I don't have a vote for where I'd rank the teams. If I did have a vote, I wouldn't vote anyways. But in the SEC, right now, Texas and Georgia have question marks at quarterback. Gunnar Stockton, is he the guy? Arch Manning, we just went over him. Is he the guy? South Carolina and Florida have really good quarterbacks, but who knows about their coach? Billy Napier and Shane Beamer, can they win at a big level? Brian Kelly has never seemed to really be able to tie the knot so far at LSU. That seems to be at least a little bit of an issue. So when it comes to the top of the league, and Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, Ty Simpson, who knows? Plus, last year, not encouraging. So when it comes to the SEC, who right now, if you had a vote and you were saying this is the best team in the conference, who would it be? And is there a team that you feel best about given all the question marks across the league?
The team that I feel best about given all the question marks is, this is tough, but by a slight margin, I'm going to say Texas, because Texas, they've recruited very well. They've brought in a lot of really strong transfers on the offensive and defensive lines. They need them because they've got to replace a bunch of guys. Their wide receiving core lost a ton of production to the NFL draft, but it's still one of the probably top 5 or 7 receiving groups in the nation. And I think Texas has a very good chance to be that team, but it's only a slight margin ahead of teams like Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. I think those 4 teams are going to be, you could flip a coin and, it would be, and see who's going to be the best team in the SEC. And there's some other teams that could rise up as well. Oklahoma is going to have one of the best defenses in the conference, one of the best defensive lines in the conference. And They've got John Mateer in at quarterback, transfer from Washington State. Their offensive line and wide receivers will be I think Oklahoma will have one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in the SEC and one of the top 3 or 4 defenses in the SEC. That's Oklahoma. And we didn't even mention them in that group of that top tier bunch of blue bloods. So right now, I'm not confident in any one of them rising up. But if you make me pick one, I'm going to say Texas.
Trevor Maddich, as always, on our program, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, thank you for being patient with us as we had Josh Heupel on the program, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jared.
Yep, Trevor Maddich here on our program. Brian Callahan was ranked 32nd as far as head coaches are concerned by CBS. And that may not be the most disrespectful list involving Brian Callahan. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So let's talk about Brian Callahan here for a second. This morning I was listening to Robbie and Rexroad, and Robbie brought up something that I said yesterday about how Cam Ward's going to have to do everything all by himself. Because if you look at the top 10 list as far as the Titans are concerned, on offense, no top 10 running back, no honorable mention running back, no running back receiving a vote for the top 10. No tight end, no tackle, no center. Honorable mention Peter Skoronski at guard, and Kevin Zeitler received a vote. That's it on offense. We'll see if Ridley gets some votes or an honorable mention tomorrow at wide receiver on the ESPN compiled lists of coaches, scouts, and executives. Number 2, Cam Ward's going to be thrown to the Wolves. Denver week 1, Jared verse week 2. But the one thing that Robbie and Joe completely left out of the conversation, and I'm disappointed as far as Robbie Stanley's concerned, is one of my bigger fears when it comes to Cam Ward and what he's going to be able to do this upcoming season is the coach. Because I'm not convinced that Cam Ward has a good coach. And neither is CBS, which ranked the top 32 coaches in the league, and ranking dead last at number 32 is Brian Callahan. Then there's this one. Mike Florio put out a list at Pro Football Talk of the 5 hottest coaching seats. Apparently, Mike McDaniel in Miami is number 1. He's the number 1 candidate to get fired. I think he'll probably get fired. I think that he's got a better shot to keep his job than Callahan, but that's just me. Number 2, Brian Dable. Number 3, Shane Steichen. Number 4, Brian Schottenheimer. Number 5, Dave Canales. Odd that Callahan would not be included. Then Florio wrote a follow-up article. Quote, I was talking to my son last night about the recent PFT list of the 5 hottest coaching seats and said my son, quote, is Brian Callahan on it. I said a 4-letter word that starts with S. If Panthers coach Dave Canales is there as he enters his second season as head coach, the Titans head coach should be too. Although the precise reasons are different, the common thread is an unpredictability tracing from top-down dysfunction. What Florio didn't write in there is that the reason that he didn't include Callahan in the top 5, and the reason he said, oh, shoot, although he didn't say the word shoot, the reason that he said that when his son asked him, hey, is Callahan on the list, is because he forgot about Callahan. That's how bad it is. That's how irrelevant Brian Callahan is right now as a coach, that Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, put together a list of coaches on the hot seat, and after it was done, had to put out another article saying, oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. He sucks too. He should have been on the list, but he's so irrelevant that we forgot about him. My bad. And then I ran a poll today on Twitter at Jared Stillman, and I asked the question. I said, talking about you people, do you think Brian Callahan is a good coach? 42% of you think yes. That's almost half after the year that we went through last year. And that's what I can't get over. Brian Callahan, I don't know if you can argue that he earned a second year to be the head coach of the Titans when the Titans decided to keep Brian Callahan, even though I heard and I said at the time Chad Brinker did not want to keep Brian Callahan. Chad Brinker wanted to move on. Amy Adams Strunk. It is my understanding that Chad Brinker wanted to move on and that Amy Adams Strunk said, no, we're going to give Callahan another year. And at that time, I was not yelling and screaming about Callahan. I understood it. But the one thing I kept reading through when I was looking to the replies of the tweet about whether or not Callahan's a good coach is the amount of people that are saying, well, the jury's still out here. I mean, what about we don't know? What about it? No. The question is, do you think he's a good coach? Yes or no? And you can't be wrong in this. You can say, no, I don't think he's a very good coach, but I hope I'm wrong, which is exactly how I feel, by the way. But what I cannot get over is the amount of Titan fans out there that are just giving Brian Callahan the benefit of the doubt. Well, Jared, he had Will Levis last year, and Will Levis was awful last year. Right, but wasn't Brian Callahan hired to coach up Will Levis? Remember, he's going to turn Will Levis into Joe Burrow. Also, as much as you can blame Levis, and Levis did stink last year, Mason Rudolph was 1-4 as starter of the Titans last year too, and they tried to bring him back. Brian Callahan did not change his coaching staff almost at all, with the exception of the special teams coach. And the Titans fans are totally cool with it. Oh, yeah, I'm sure Denard Wilson, I'm sure he's good. He's never done anything in the NFL. No team that has him ever wants to promote him to defensive coordinator. But other than that, I'm sure it's good. Don't get any pressure. Don't get any stops. But other than that, I'm sure it's good. I had somebody yesterday text and say, the defense was good last year. No, the defense ranked second in yards allowed simply because the offense turned the ball over and the special teams gave up short fields. But the defense couldn't get big stops against Mac Jones. They were terrible. But again, doesn't change the offensive coordinator, doesn't change defensive coordinator, and Titan fans just totally cool with it. And maybe Brian Callahan is a good coach. And maybe this whole thing is going to work out. And maybe Denard Wilson and Nick Holtz and all the other guys are good assistant coaches. And maybe pandering to Jeffrey Simmons every day, maybe that's going to work. But I have to ask, why to you people does Brian Callahan get the benefit of the doubt? Wasn't the benefit of the doubt about last season? You get the benefit of the doubt, you fail miserably, then you don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Same thing with Rand Carthon. Rand Carthon took the job, said, just trust me, after they drafted a crappy guard with the 11th overall pick, after they drafted Levis and Tajay Spears, after they signed Andre Dillard and said, just trust me. And the next offseason, when the Titans were trying to tell people J.C. Latham could play left tackle or Nicholas Petit-Frere Connor, a.k.a. PT could play right tackle, I say you don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Now, I was a hater, remember? Oh, Jared, he's a hater. But no, you don't get the benefit of that. When you screw something up and you try to run it back the same way the next year, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. And look, again, most of you think Callahan is not a good coach, 57.3%. But I still can't get over the 42. And the other thing, what has Brian Callahan done different this year than he did last year? Just more patting everybody on the ass. So I got to say, when it comes to Callahan, and he was ranked 32nd by CBS, and that's not even the most disrespect that he's received on any of these lists. He got disrespected by not being on the list at Pro Football Talk, prompting Mike Florio to write another story saying, whoops, I forgot Brian Callahan. He's so irrelevant. That tells you where the state of this team is. I mean, I'm sorry. That is bad. That is bad. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I have a random sports media take because there were a lot of people fired yesterday at FS1. And I think I know the solution that all these high-priced executives cannot figure out when it comes to sports media, and I got to get it off my chest. We'll do that next. And your phones on the Titans and Callahan, 615-737-1025. It's Stillman & Company on 102.5 The Game.
Yeah, looking at that right there, that's awful. And you can think whatever you want to think about Jalen Hurts, but there should never be a list to where Justin Herbert is in front of Jalen Hurts. I don't really care about what type of talent and all that you're talking about. And then Jaden Daniels is going to be a superstar in this league. I truly believe that. But I cannot put him in front of Jalen Hurts, who's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's had 1 good year. Do I think at the end of this, when it's all said and done, could he possibly be better? Yes, absolutely. But right now, as we're talking right now, after 1 year, no. And then I see Justin Herbert at 7, who hasn't won a playoff game. This boy been to more Super Bowls than you won playoff games. And we're talking about Justin Herbert's a better quarterback to him. I cannot do that. I think this is disrespectful to Jalen Hurts right here. This is an awful list when you have Jalen Hurts at 9 and those 2 dudes in front of him.
Okay, that was James Jones on Fox Sports 1 on a show called The Facility. And after that take about Jalen Hurts, which a lot of people have, I mean, I think it's a little ridiculous. I don't think Jalen Hurts is that good. But after that take, James Jones and the rest of that show got fired. As FS1 making major changes yesterday, it was reported by Andrew Marchand of The Athletic that the show Speak with Joy Taylor, Keyshawn Johnson, and Paul Pierce, not renewed by Fox Sports. Goodbye. They're out. Their morning show Breakfast Ball with Craig Carton, Danny Parkins, and Mark Schlereth, they're out. Although apparently Parkins will stay with the network. He's buddies with Nick Wright and Colin. I really don't think Parkins is very good. That's just me, but he'll stay for a little bit. They'll figure out something with him. And The Facility, hosted by Emmanuel Acho, Chase Daniel, James Jones, and LaShawn McCoy, which began less than a year ago, they're out too. So Fox Sports 1, which years ago launched to be the competitor to ESPN, headlined by Aaron Andrews, if you can actually believe it or not. FS1, which has never done that, did get close there for a second with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp and Colin Cowherd, but it now has 2 shows, Colin Cowherd and First Things First with Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, and Kevin Wildes. Again, that show comes on at 2 o'clock. We're usually on the air then, so I don't watch it, but apparently it does rate okay. And so a lot of this stems from a guy by the name of Charlie Dixon. There are allegations of how Charlie Dixon hired people like Joy Taylor. You can go read up on them on your own time. I'm not going to get into it. But this is the umpteenth time that these networks and these executives have tried some kind of show, and it has absolutely failed. And for the umpteenth time, FS1, which started about 10 years ago, FS1 is kind of scrapping up the whole deal and starting from scratch. And here's what I don't understand. The amount of money that a network like Fox has and can spend on Fox Sports programming. Think about how much money Tom Brady's making. Cowherd makes a ton of money. Skip and Shannon made a fortune. So the guys that are pulling the strings there, they're smart people. The amount of money that these people make for mind-numbing decisions is actually shocking to me. And here's what I've realized when it comes to TV. And I've talked to radio people about this, and I've talked to TV people about this. And I've said, when it comes to talk radio, you can take a talk radio host, put them on TV, and it will be a good TV show. Because all you're doing is you're just adding a camera. You think if you added a camera to Rush Limbaugh's radio show and put it on Fox News, people wouldn't watch? Of course they would. And I mean, no disrespect to Rush Limbaugh, but Rush Limbaugh was not the most aesthetically pleasing individual on TV. And I'll tell you right now, Rush Limbaugh would have worked. But here's the problem that TV people have. Far too often, they don't value 2 things that are very important. One is the ability to communicate with the audience. And number 2, chemistry. These executives sit up in the C-suite at ESPN and Fox Sports 1, and they say, you know, Bobby would be pretty good, huh? Let's put him on. I see it in local radio all the time. Dan Patrick talked about this last week, basically saying, yeah, the executives that make decisions in radio and sports broadcasts, they don't know what they're doing anymore. Everybody thinks these shows are about hot takes. But if it was only about hot takes, wouldn't Skip Bayless have been able to survive post Shannon Sharp? But that's not it. What these shows, what really works is chemistry, critical thinking, and energy. Now, chemistry does not mean we're best buddies all the time and we pat each other on the ass. That's not chemistry. Again, Skip and Stephen A., great chemistry on television. You can hate that show all you wanted to. Those two were very good. But they weren't best buddies. It was a debate show. Mike and Mike had chemistry. Then when Mike went to go do his own thing with Michelle Beadle and Jalen Rose, they didn't have any chemistry. The show was terrible. Skip Bayless leaves. The suits at ESPN take Max Kellerman, who I don't think is very good at communicating to an audience, and they take Max Kellerman, put him with Stephen A. Those guys did not have chemistry, and Stephen A. Smith made the executive decision to move off of Max Kellerman because he's got better chemistry with his rotating cast of characters that he puts on there every single week, whether it's Shannon, who now no longer goes on there, whether it's Dan Orlovsky or Damian Woody, or all the guys that Kendrick Perkins that Stephen A. yells at on a consistent basis. You may not like the yelling, but there is chemistry that is there. And when it came to the FS1 shows, it felt like they hired people because they were friends with him, like Danny Parkins, who was friends with Nick Wright, and that's how he got hired, even though Danny Parkins doesn't have a lot of talent, or who they were allegedly sleeping with. So if you wanted to do this and do it well, and you wanted to put together a network of shows that people watched, there is a level of stuff that you would have to understand that for some reason, I don't get it. These suit level executives at the big companies that make way more money than I do don't seem to understand. What they're going to do is they're going to probably hire some ex-athletes you see talking on Twitter, probably hire them, put them in there, just say, okay, you're on, go, the same way they did with LaShawn McCoy and with James Jones and those guys. They'll probably put Eric Mangini on a show. Here, go. And they'll probably hire some guy out of New York who they think will play for the entire country, but may or may not. Because they don't get it. They may take a podcast show and say, this will be a good TV show. But a good TV show doesn't necessarily mean, or excuse me, a good podcast show doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good TV show or a good radio show. And with radio, there's a clock. Again, I got to keep your attention at 4:30, the same way I've got to keep your attention at 2:15. Podcasters put their feet up on the desk, they hem and haw for 30 minutes, and then it's like, okay, now here's why people are tuning into the podcast. Let's get to it, because they know in podcasts you can just zip through it. You don't need that anymore. If you want to do this, here's how you do it. You realize what the audience cares about. Number one, football. Number two, college football. Number three, NBA and Major League Baseball stars. So LeBron James, Kevin Durant, those kind of basketball players, the Yankees, the Dodgers, Ohtani and Aaron Judge. And then get back to football. That's first thing. Number two, you need a main host who knows how to be a main host. Somebody that knows how to bring you to break, that knows how to interview guests, that knows how to, you need that. But most importantly, you need people with talent. You don't need people who are popular on Instagram. You don't need people who are good on YouTube. You don't need, and just because you're popular on Instagram doesn't mean you don't have talent. But Fox Sports 1 hired Colin Cowherd and took him away from ESPN. I don't think they did it because of how many people were following Colin on Twitter. I think they did it because they knew Colin had talent at ESPN. If I were calling the shots at Fox Sports 1, I'd hire the Felger and Maz program out of Boston. The Boston cuts that we play, I'd hire them. Why? Because those guys are consistently viewed as the best radio show in America. Their show is simulcast already on television, and they are seasoned enough and smart enough to be able to realize, okay, we're hiring you to FS1, which means instead of talking about the Boston Bruins third line, we're going to talk Dallas Cowboys. Why would I pick them? Not the reasons that the C-level suites now pick at these big media networks. I'm not picking them because they're diverse. I'm not picking them because they used to play. I'm not picking them because they have an Instagram following. I'm picking them because they're good. That's why. Because they've been good. And they've been good together for a long, long time in one of the biggest markets in the country. And they have been for 10 years considered the best local radio show, period. I don't have to try out to see whether or not they've got chemistry. But again, that doesn't matter to these people. And for some reason, I've never been in a hiring capacity. Have I been part of discussions when we've done things like hire Caroline? Yeah, I have been. But have I been in a hiring capacity where I'm putting a show together and no, I never have been. And I'm sure like every job, it's a lot harder than people think. But what's happened in sports media is, again, we've stopped worrying about who's good. People now get jobs because of who their parents are. People get jobs because of who they're allegedly sleeping with. People get jobs because of their Instagram following. And not a lot of people get jobs anymore because they're good. You want to know why Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp worked? Because they were good. That's why Skip Bayless was successful before he started working with Shannon Sharp. And Shannon Sharp, we know about the off-the-field stuff, but Shannon has been successful after working with Skip. Why? Because they both together had talent. And for some reason, these shows, they don't understand. And these executives, they think that they are so smart. And instead of, hey, let's go get people who are good and let's put them on there and say, hey, do what makes you good. Only instead of whatever it is you talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I do Sirius XM. I'd like to think I'm pretty good. When I do Sirius XM, it's not very different than this. Only instead of bitching about Ryan Tannehill, it's talking about Aaron Rodgers. Instead of talking about the Titans, it's talking about the Cowboys. That's it. But it's about getting people who are good. That's what this all boils down to. People who are good. One person texts in and says, this is all about the internet on the phones. And people only don't care about TV anymore. They only care about what's on the phones and Twitter and Facebook and phones and YouTube. And again, that's what these people up in New York, these executives, these C-level suites, this is what they think is it's only about phones. It's only about digital. It's only about Twitter. It's only about Instagram followings. It's only about TikTok. It's only about, really? Then why is Pat McAfee on TV? Because they have chemistry. That group. If that were the case, then why isn't every other successful podcaster dominating on TV? That's how this works. All those clips on TV, they end up in the same places on the internet that all the other shows do as well. One texter says, I wish First Take would have figured that out with Molly Querim. The only reason she was ever hired for that show is because she used to be married to Jalen Rose. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do think that Molly and Stephen A. have chemistry with their crew. You know, again, Mad Dog and Stephen A., I think if Skip Bayless had left and they replaced him with Mad Dog, they would have never missed a beat. But again, ESPN had to put Max Kellerman in there, even though that kind of show not really is a fit for how Max Kellerman works. I mean, look at the ESPN radio lineup. Look at the trash they put on ESPN radio. I mean, we run these promos, you know, listen to Clinton and Friends on ESPN Radio. And when we play those cuts, I'm sorry. I've actually been thinking about this. And I know, we're ESPN Radio affiliate. God bless you, ESPN Radio. We love you and mean it, XYZ. But when they run some of these promos, I'm like, why the hell would I ever listen to that show? Newt, can you get me one of these promos?
Give me 2 seconds.
Okay, give me one of these ESPN promos. This is a show that ESPN Radio sends this promo to us and says, hey, put this on there so that your audience will hear this and will want to listen to us. Play the cut. I got to listen to that show now. Did you hear that take? I mean, I gotta try that. This guy said, well, I'm glad it's not just the usual suspects that are trying to win in the NBA. Listen to our show. That's the best you got. But again, these guys that work at the high levels, they just collect a check. It's just stealing money. But that's how you end up where Fox Sports 1 every 4 years hits the reboot and says, all right, let's do something different. And then they're going to do the same thing. They're going to hire ex-players who don't have any experience and no talent, like LaShawn McCoy. They're going to hire Nick Wright's buddies who also have no talent, like Danny Parkins. And they're going to stick them all together when they have no working experience, no chemistry, and they have no idea if that show's going to work. Zero. Good luck. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025, if you want to weigh in on the program. So we'll add that to the list. And by the way, speaking of the media, the All-Star game is today as far as baseball is concerned. I actually think baseball is doing a good job when it comes to fixing what used to be when it comes to baseball. They'll never fix it the way it used to be, but I think they're doing a decent job. And yet, the one thing that I feel like exemplifies just how stupid some of these people making millions and millions and almost billions of dollars are. We'll hit that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Thank you for the intel. Thank you for the vibes around baseball for years and years with us. You have been our plug for baseball for years. And I think we've been very transparent on our relationship with baseball. I don't know much about it, but now that we're here, we have you to thank for a lot of it, Jim. We appreciate you bringing us into the world, and we appreciate you taking care of us. You're the man.
Honestly, I'm so glad you guys are here just to get to experience what this is like. This is like, I think this is my 22nd or 23rd All-Star game. I've been doing this a while now, and being able to reach out to a wider group of fans and show them what this world is like, it means a lot to me. And
There you go. That was Jeff Passan. Pat McAfee sitting there on set with Jeff Passan. Jeff, we don't really care about baseball, but we're glad that we care about it more now because of you. I, was in and out as far as my head was concerned yesterday with the home run derby. I actually think the TV ratings weren't bad, up 5% from last year. There were no real superstars in the home run derby, so I have to give them credit. To sit there and say that would be the same as if it were Bonds, McGuire, and Sosa is not totally fair. But Andrew Marchand at The Athletic had a take, and it is a take that is so good that I want to discuss how important it is for baseball. I think baseball takes a lot of crap. I do. 10 years ago, I'll never forget, people were really dogging baseball, and baseball deserved it. It was a dying sport 10 years ago. I mean, it was dying. You could watch a game and just see the tumbleweed go by. But they've made changes. Whether it's speeding the game up with the pitch clock, whether it is marketing stars like Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, whether it is less pickoffs, less pitcher changes, whatever it may be. They've done a lot to improve the game, and the ratings reflect that because the TV ratings are up, the national TV ratings for baseball are up, the World Series ratings are up. Again, the Home Run Derby was up 5% without having any superstars in it last night, and I think the All-Star Game, it won't do what it used to do back in the day, but I think it'll do okay. But here's the problem baseball has. Of all the sports, take football out because the NFL is just a different beast. Pete Rozelle years ago revamped how they do TV rights with the NFL, which led to the kind of one for all and all for one, which is why the Dallas Cowboys make as much money from their TV rights as the Tennessee Titans make from theirs, even though we know a lot more people watch the Dallas Cowboys than watch Tennessee Titans. They don't have 80 games like hockey or basketball and 160 like baseball. So for years, baseball had a free lunch because they could charge whatever they wanted to their cable provider, their TV channel, because their TV channel could then get just copious amounts of money from the cable provider, even if people didn't watch the game. The problem is that in 2019, people started to figure that out, and they said, no, I'll sign up for cable without the baseball. And that's been a big problem. We've seen it with the Predators here. As far as FanDuel Sports Network Southeast.com/state tech info, whatever is concerned. And Andrew Marchand wrote this because baseball's TV contracts are almost up. I think they'll be up in a couple of years and they'll be up for renegotiation. And he says, here's what they should do. He said baseball should create a Monday through Friday MLB branded subscription service to be distributed on as many platforms as possible, including YouTube, ESPN's direct-to-consumer platform, Apple, Amazon, Roku, Fubo, and more. Be everywhere, simple and easily accessible. The RSNs, the cable channels, would still have weekday games that air locally, but any fan anywhere would be able to watch their favorite team through any streaming product they use. In an ideal world, we would see the league charge somewhere between $4.99 and $9.99 per month. But Major League Baseball may look to earn more with a $19.99 or $29.99 range. Yes, we'd want the league to make money, but we also want as many people to see the games as possible, so we try to go cheaper. That was his idea. And I saw that, I read that, and said, oh my God, that's genius. That's genius. For baseball, hockey, basketball, for all of it. $4.99 to $9.99 a month. On all the streaming services. So if you primarily use YouTube, you buy it through YouTube. If you primarily use Apple TV, buy it through Apple. If you primarily use Prime, buy it through Prime. And if you make it $7 a month, or $5 a month, or even $9 a month, I think you'll find a lot of people that would be willing to pay for that. What they're not going to pay for, they're not going to pay $30 a month. They're not going to do it. I do, only because I like the simplicity of just being able to, go to my TV and go click, and let's put the game on. But for $30 a month, people are going to learn how to pirate your stuff, or they're going to continue to pirate the stuff. I was talking about this yesterday with Caroline and her boyfriend, and I was like, I just don't have the patience to pirate the games. And there's all these pop-up ads and everything else that comes with it. If you make the product $5, if you do that, you're going to get all of those games and you'll be able to watch your team. And then he says on the weekends, they'll have a national broadcast, a noon broadcast, a 3 broadcast, a 6 p.m. broadcast, and the 6 p.m. broadcast Saturdays and Sundays being exclusive. Good enough for me. I just keep thinking about this. If you're the Predators and you have the option of being, and I don't know how much, I think it's $19.99 a month to get the Predators during the season on Amazon Prime. If you could do $19.99 a month on Amazon Prime, or you could do $4.99 a month, $5.99 a month, $6.99 a month, you could do all of that. And you could put it across all the different platforms so people can just pay it, buy it, and go. Which one would you choose and which one would you make more money on? I think you'd make more money by charging less money and being available in more places. But the problem with the athletic, or the problem in Major League Baseball is, they're going to screw it up. They're doing a good job for the most part. The local TV deals are a disaster. Here's a simple solution, and I know they're going to screw it up. But, man, hockey, basketball, baseball, they need to get their games on TV, put it on all the streaming platforms, and make it cheap so people won't try to go out of their way and they won't try to pirate the games. 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company, 1025, 106 The Game. Stillman and Company. Hey, this isn't just a concert, it's a cause. Tentrix Rock the Cradle will help give fragile newborns a stronger start and keep moms close when it matters most. With Tim McGraw live on stage, your support behind every beat. Ascension St. Thomas is turning music into healing. Tickets are on sale now at rockthecradlenashville.org. So the Major League Baseball All-Star Game is today. We'll have it right here on 102.5 The Game. Before you say, I used to love the All-Star Game, Jared, and it's not the same anymore. First of all, I know. We all know. And I'm going to say this. When I was a kid, I used to love the All-Star Game. I used to be a National League guy. But when I was a kid, interleague play either didn't exist or had just come into the game and was kind of a new gimmick that would last for 3 weeks over the course of the year, and then it was right back to AL versus AL and NL versus NL. Back in the day, the All-Star Game used to really have juice because outside of the World Series, the American League and National League never played each other. Willie Mays would never play against Ted Williams unless it was an All-Star Game. So, when it comes to the All-Star Game, and I understand that there are a lot of people that are not going to watch. It's not going to draw the 30+ million it used to. I'm actually fascinated as to whether or not it'll be an interesting game to watch. But here's the other problem baseball has, and they're getting better at this, but it's still a big problem. How many All-Stars would you say are stars? And the player who I'll use is in comparison Mike Piazza. Would any of you say that, let's use this guy, Riley Green, the left fielder for the Detroit Tigers, is a bigger star than Mike Piazza was? There is one guy in the American League lineup, that's Aaron Judge, who I would say is on that level of star. The National League, I think there are 3. Shohei Ohtani, Ronald Acuna, and Freddie Freeman. That's a problem baseball's having. That if they're going to, again, the All-Star Game's never going to be the same because the players don't care as much as they used to. And again, there's not a National League, American League pride like there used to be. But that's one thing when it comes to baseball. If you're really going to get this All-Star Game thing, and it's not as bad as the NBA, where the players really don't give a rat's ass, but you're going to need a little bit more on the star power front. I do like this Paul Skeens, though, who will be pitching for Pittsburgh, and eventually they'll have to trade him to the Yankees, and his girlfriend is smoking, so I am at least a fan there. But that's the one thing baseball's got to get right is I think they got to get the stars back. They're doing okay with Ohtani and Judge, but they need at least some more stars. One texter says, I agree, keeping the price low would incentivize some people to pay, but others will use a VPN and get the real product for free. I mean, I still think if you do like the VPN stuff, you still have to, if you're trying to pirate the games, you still have to, first of all, Major League Baseball makes it incredibly hard to do that, but you still have to deal with all the pop-up ads. And that I can't do. That I just can't do. That's it for us. Enjoy the All-Star Game. Enjoy the rest of the week. Training camp opens next week. I will be back on Monday where we set our official Titan expectations. That's it for us, Stillman and Company. Chase and Big Job, I believe, will be in tomorrow until 3, and then Jake Lyman will be taking over. So we'll see you all next Monday, Stillman and Company. Enjoy the All-Star Game, 102.5 The Game.